Cycle of franchising. So what are you going to business for? You go into business because you go into the restaurant business because you love food, you're passionate about food, and you figure it might be simple. I might be able to put something, maybe my grandmother's recipe or the country or the city I come from, the culture, I could put something together and offer it to the Canadian public. And there'll be great demand because it's exceptional. But you're also in business to make money. We're in business to make money. I'm Jewish. Many of you are Chinese. We're all Asian. And we know what money's like. We know how important money is. We make money unapologetically. Never apologize to anybody for making money and wanting to make a lot of money. There's two things you can't get enough of: money and children. Okay? And it might be easier to make money than make children. I don't know, but okay. So it's all about making money. Somebody comes into the restaurant. We had a beautiful noodle soup today. It's prepared. It's $5. Somebody comes in, they give you $5. You take the $5, they get the soup, and they're gone. That's a transaction. It's a business transaction. It's very small. And we know that you make money. You're generating your sales. You're generating your revenues. From a corporate perspective, big companies, small companies, medium companies, they talk about revenues. Revenues are where the value of your company is. You generate revenues, and at the end of your expenses, you hopefully have profits. So in the franchise business, so now, guess what? We're going to enter into an agreement, you and me, and we're going to sign a franchise agreement. I'm the franchisor, you're the franchisee. So you bought one of my restaurants, you bought one of my Toasto restaurants, and now you get into the restaurant and you start operating, and you're making revenues. You're generating sales, generating revenues, and after all your expenses, you pay your rent, you pay your labor, you pay your occupancy, your hydro, your gas, your water, everything. You pay your food costs, and you have a little profit left over. Well, that's great. How do I make my money? Where's my profit, right? So I have to generate revenues also. So the revenues in the life cycle of a franchise are as follows. And why is it entitled the life cycle? Always remember that every time you enter into an agreement with anybody, even a marriage agreement. Think about this for a moment. Hey, think about this. A marriage agreement. Every agreement you enter into has a life cycle, has a timeline. It has a beginning and it has an ending. When is the ending of a marriage agreement? Sorry? Did somebody say divorce? Well, is that where we're going today? Is that where we're divorced right away? What about and eternally, until death do us part? That doesn't happen too much anymore, but divorce is so natural, so divorce, good one. That's a good one. But he's correct, you're correct. But think about it. Philosophically and theoretically, even a marriage contract, when two people get married, they're tying the knot, there's a marriage contract, and it's supposed to be eternally, if not eternally means till death do us part, till one of you die. That is a timeline. That has a timeline. Or if it expires suddenly or slowly over a period of time, and there's a termination, there's a divorce or whatever, that's a timeline also. So agreements have to have a timeline. So the franchise agreements, the partnership, the franchise agreement also has a timeline. Normally in Canada and North America, it's a 10-year agreement. That's enough time for somebody to invest $500,000 on average and put down $250,000 liquid capital, take a bank loan for $250,000, and in 3, 4 years, 5 years, pay off the bank loan. The last 5 years, you're making all profits, you're not paying the bank loan, and at the end of 10 years, you have the expiration, the expiry of your first contract, your franchise agreement. A good franchise agreement will also carry a timeline, a renewal option. It'll have 1 renewal or 2 renewals, a 5-year period or a 10-year period. So the normal lifespan of a franchise, the life cycle of a franchise, is 10 years plus 2 optional renewals, so 20 years, let's say. That's a long time to make an investment, get your money back, and make some good money. Okay? So it has a timeline, so that's why it's called a life cycle. In the life cycle, how does the franchisor, if all of you want to go into the franchise business, if you build beautiful restaurants, and you want to share that business model, and you want to build an empire. So you want to do it on other people's money, and you want to do it through franchising. So you're going to set up a franchise company. You're going to become the franchisor. Great. How do I make my money? What are the revenue streams? So the revenue streams are as follows. Number one, the first revenue stream is called new store development. Okay? So every time a franchisor sells a new store to a prospective franchisee, he's going to make what? Does anybody know what his revenue is going to be when he sells that, when he signs that franchise agreement? It's called, the franchise fee. Any idea how much a franchise fee is out there in the market today in Ontario?
20, 30, maybe 40,000.
That's correct. Catherine would have said 20, 30, 40 million. But you are correct.
I know out there some people may charge 100,000.
Some people will charge $100,000, that's correct. So, but on average, for a small restaurant, small business, $25,000 franchise fee. So look at this, for example. Look at this, for example. If I sell you a franchise, I'm picking on you today. I don't know why. Maybe she's got the most money in the room.
Oh, now you can tell.
I know, I could tell. So I sell you a franchise and I earn $25,000, that's the franchise fee. I fully earn that, okay? That's not a lot of money. But what happens if I sell 10 franchises or 20 franchises this year alone? So let's say 20 franchises. I'm building a store, 1 to 2 stores every month. That's easy, that's doable. So now that's $500,000. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, right? Okay? It's net, net, net. It's net. That's after I take the rest of your money to build your store, to give you training, you know, to set you up in the store, to send my people there to open the store. But that's just net. So that's the first. When you sell a franchise and or if you sell a license. Many years ago, when I was with a company called Cool Brands International, before I was with MTY, and Cool Brands is the owner of Yogenfruz. Yogenfruz was the world's freshest idea and the world's largest frozen yogurt chain at one time. I was Vice President of Strategic Development and I was selling licenses around the world. I was selling licenses for $500,000 to Indonesia, $400,000 to Malaysia, Kanto province, one province in Japan, I sold for $600,000. This was in US. These were all US funds also. So I was selling millions and millions of dollars a year of license agreements. So I met a business group in from Yokohama, Japan, and they bought Kanto province. So they came to Canada with their lawyers. We gave them the contract. They went to their hotel. They reviewed 200 pages. And they went around and they looked at all the Yogenfruz stores and they loved them. And they also liked me and they liked the president and they liked what they saw at the head office. And they saw that this was a good investment. They also saw our business model as the franchisor. They saw our success. And somebody said before, duplicable, duplicated, correct? And they thought, wow, this is fantastic. I don't have to take a risk. I don't have to figure out the recipes. I don't have to figure out how much it costs to build a store. It's all done for me. I just have to pay for the license. I take that license, I go back to Kanto province, and I build my first store, and I start franchising from there. So I sold that for $600,000. What did they get? A 200-page contract. What did I get? $600,000. For what? For the 200-page contract. This is crazy. It's a license to print money. Go into franchising. It's fantastic. Build your empire on other people's money. It's amazing. Okay. In those years, incidentally, $600,000, the exchange rate on Canada, I can't remember the exchange rate, but it came to $1 million. That quarter, the co-CEO of our company in New York City called me up and said, you're getting on my private jet and you're flying down to New York City. I'm taking you out to dinner because you just earned us 4 cents per share. We're a public company, 4 cents per share. Our stock was only 25 cents a share. So sorry, it was 20 cents a share. 4 more cents went to 25. That was massive. That was huge from just one deal. It's crazy. Look at the value, the added value that came into the company because of one license deal. And again, we didn't build a Yogenfruz yet. Nobody put a spike in the ground. It was just an exchange. lawyers and contracts, lawyers and contracts, lawyers and contracts, franchising, right? That's the business model, beautiful. What vehicle do we use for our business model? What's the vehicle we started with? We own restaurants. So we're going to franchise our restaurants, right? Okay, good, good, good. Stage 2. The second revenue stream that's generated. Okay, the first one is new store development. So we get a franchise fee. We also make a couple more revenues. Sorry, let me backtrack for a moment before I go to stage 2. We also make a little bit more money. One thing I could say for sure is I'd like to sell some franchises here today, but after I educate you, none of you are going to buy a franchise. You're all going to become franchisors in a big way. Okay, stage 2. You paid me a $25,000 franchise fee. I'm going to build your store for you, and your store costs $500,000. In that $500,000, there's, let's say there's $300,000 of leasehold improvements, construction to build the store. The hard construction, and then the furniture and fixtures and the equipment package. But let's just deal with the construction. $300,000, I'm going to get a rebate from either from my contractor, or I'm just going to pull it out from the revenues of 15%. That's $45,000. Oh boy, this is looking good. 25 and 45 is how much? There's got to be a few mathematicians in the audience here. $60,000, $70,000, right? And then when I go and buy your equipment and put it into your store, I get a volume discount from the equipment supplier that I buy from. So if I'm going to buy $200,000 worth of equipment for your store, and I got a 10% rebate, I have another $20,000. So guess what? This is getting good, isn't it? This is better than lunch, right? If I sell a franchise for $500,000, I'm making a franchise fee $25,000. I'm making $45,000 on construction management, project management, and God knows you better let me build the store because I built them before. I won't get screwed, but you'll get screwed. You go and get a contractor and you don't know what you're doing. Let me tell you, contractors know how to take advantage of all of us. Okay? Leave it in my hands. Leave it in my expert hands, my professional hands. And then on top of that, I get the rebate because I get this volume discount. So what am I making when I sell one franchise? I'm making a cool $75,000 to $100,000. Okay, it's only one franchise, right? It's only you. But now I'm selling 10 more to everybody else, and now 20 more. So all of a sudden, I go from my little cute restaurant, where I'm working so hard all the time. I left my restaurant, I put it in the hands of a general manager, so I'm only earning $50,000, $75,000 a year. And now I'm a franchisor, and I just sold 20 franchises, and I haven't even built the stores yet. I was just busy in the first 3-4 months selling the franchise, and I just made $2 million. What's my overhead? I don't have much overhead. It was just me and my lawyers and my little office, right? It's an incredible business model, right? Okay, that's stage 1. That's new store development. You're earning great revenues up front every time you sell a franchise or a license. Done. Stage 2, now I built the store, I trained the staff, and now it's grand opening day, they open the store for business, and the POS system starts ringing. And it starts ringing in revenue, sales, revenue, sales and revenues. Alcohol, food, merchandising maybe, because you got such a great logo, they're buying your t-shirts, they're buying your ball caps. That's merchandise, right? Okay. How does the franchisor make his money? Continuous royalties. I had a franchisee, the Tosto brand. We sold Tosto on Bay Street to a franchisee, a beautiful, beautiful lady from Malaysia, and she sold 3 small businesses to buy the Tosto brand on Bay Street. In her first year operating, she did $979,000 in 12 months operating. Those were her sales. Her EBITDA, her profit was $199,000. That's unheard of in franchising, by the way. That's the brilliance of Chris David and myself in creating a first-class brand, a business model that doesn't compete with other restaurants, but kills other restaurants. It's called a category killer. And that's how we went to market. Stanley Moss said, I'll give you $5 million. How will I see my money back? And I said, we'll be a category killer. We're not competing with anybody. You'll see every penny back and fast. Okay, so $979,000. She had a profit of $199,000. On top of that, she took a salary of $60,000. It's very hard to find a franchise today, a franchise business model that can do $1 million in sales and give the franchisee 25% return. If you want to know what the average return is, it's 3 to 4%. Yeah, that's the average. It's the 80-20 rule in franchising. 80% franchises are not successful, 20% are successful. And of the 20%, only a few are close to 8 or 9%. So I knew, and this is what I've always done. Me and my partner Chris have always thought outside the box. If you want to do something in life, and you want to make a difference for yourself and for your family, then think outside the box. Salvation doesn't come to those who follow the beaten path, but only to those who break new ground, who are pioneers, who swim against conformity. And even the Globe and Mail and the National Post and the Financial Post and even Toronto Life, I think, all questioned me in a news conference and said, this is impossible, you're never going to be able to do it. Stanley Ma will lose his investment on you. And I said, no, you watch and see. I'm thinking out of the box. And it wasn't so hard. It wasn't rocket science. You know what I did? I thought, well, what happened 30 years ago when I was a kid? The immigrants, 30, 40 years ago, the immigrants in Canada were Jews, Italian, Portuguese, and Greek. They couldn't get jobs, so they worked in mediocre jobs in the textile industry on office spadina. They saved their nickels and their dimes. They bought a variety store, a corner variety store, a convenience store. Then they went into restaurants. They built a restaurant. Everyone was in the restaurant business. And what were they making? What was their return? It was an independent restaurant. There wasn't a big distributor with logistics, trucking and warehousing and freezers and everything. They went to the grocery, they went to the local produce and they bought produce. They went to the butcher and they bought meat. They came back and they made a meal and they sold it. What was their net return? 30%, 25%, 30%. So when the media came to me afterwards and said, how did you do this? I said, well, it's not rocket science. I said this all the time. I'll say this because I have an Asian audience here today. I have always respected Asian business people because, number one, they have respect for themselves and they have respect for their tradition. Tradition is something that goes back a long time. And if you go back into history and you see how things were done, why are they so different today? Go back to the foundations and back to the basics. That's why I said it wasn't rocket science. That's what I did. So everybody's working hard and getting 3-4%, and then a good franchisee is maybe making a good one 5 or 6%, and an exceptional franchisee is getting 8 or 9%, and then 1% of society is just over 10%. Like the 1% of society that earns over $100,000 a year, as they say. If you earn over $100,000 a year, they say that you are part of the 1% category. Same thing in franchising. It wasn't for me. I knew that my franchisees had to do well. So my franchisee made 25-26%. Now here's the punchline, because we're talking about the franchisor. What did I make? So she paid us a royalty of 5%, 5% royalty and 3% advertising, 2% advertising, 7%. 7% of $979,000 came to about $73,000 or $74,000. Okay. So think about this for a moment. Think about this. So I opened up my franchise business. I sold 20 franchises, and I built 20 stores. So I made about let's say about $75,000 a store. It's like a $1.5 million revenue stream by building the stores. My stores are operating, and now I'm collecting on each store. Let's say we've got to round it off. We've got to deal with good numbers, okay? So it's easy to calculate. Let's say my 20 stores are doing $1 million a year each. That's 20 million. What's 5% royalty on 20 million? $1 million, right? Right, $1 million. So in a 12 to 18 months to 2-year revolving cycle, I've had revenues of about $2.5 million so far. Not bad, right? How many people, how much office overhead do I